Hello and welcome. Today is Wednesday, and we are going to do the first episode of Veeam Wednesdays. And today we are going to take a look at one of Veeam's newest products, which is the Veeam backup for Salesforce. So if you or anyone you know might be using Salesforce and are looking for a cheap or cost-effective way to back it up, please take a look at Veeam's product. Today we're going to walk through how to install it and how to configure it, and we'll also work on deleting some data and trying to restore that data. Okay, so diving right in, we can take a look at, first of all, I want to point out that there is an article here published in November of 2022 going over a technical deep dive of why you need Veeam backup for Salesforce and sort of the architecture. So if you're interested in that, I will post the URL in the link to this video. So let's pop over to take a look at the user guide and take a look at what you need to have as a prerequisite. So as you can see here, the hardware is pretty minimal. But this is the key here, is these are the supported operating systems. So basically CentOS 7, Red Hat Linux 7 or 8, or Oracle Linux 7 or 8. And so basically in the environment that I've created here, it's an Oracle 8 distribution that's been installed. Okay, so let's pop over to the installing section, and we'll see that it's pretty simple. All we have to do is there's these scripts. There's also a manual process to install it, but I'm just going to go through the scripts and let that run, and we'll see how simple it is to actually install this. So basically we just click this to copy it, and then we pop over to the terminal here, and we just paste that in there, and we run it. And as you can see here, after I've successfully put in my password, it downloaded the script, which is the first part there. So we'll go back to the instructions here. We'll click on the command to run the script, and we'll go back over to the terminal, and we'll cut and paste that in there and let it run. Okay, so we just waited a few minutes, and we see that it has completed the script to install the Veeam backup for Salesforce. And now it's just asking us to confirm whether we have enough disk space in the OPT folder for the backups. And we will just answer yes to this. If you're installing this in a test environment, it is a legitimate concern. Just make sure that you do have enough space for the actual backups that you're going to be using to test. Okay, so the next thing it's asking us is the log rotation. It's recommending 7 days. We'll probably go with that. But as you can see there, you can turn off the log rotation, or you can set it to 365 days, or anything in between. But we're just going to set it to 7 for this demonstration. And then here's a question, because it does need a Postgres SQL to store the database. And if you have one already there, you don't need to install it. But in this case, we're going to do an all-in-one. We're going to install the Postgres SQL database to this server itself. So we're going to answer yes to this question. And we're just going to let it go through and install the Postgres SQL on the server itself. And it's pretty quick. And as you can see here, it has finished installing, and now it's initializing the database. And voila, you can see it's actually pretty old school here, where they have the Postgres SQL, not logo, but in 8-bit format there. And now it's going to prompt to see if you want to change a firewall setting, and we're just going to say yes to this because we need this to be accessible so that we can manage it. And again, it's going to ask to confirm whether you want to make the changes to the Nginx. We're going to select yes to that. Okay, so after a few minutes, you can see here that it again has completed all of the configuration of the firewall and Nginx configuration. And again, it's a nice little 8-bit logo there. for the Veeam backup for Salesforce. It's complete. And as you can see, there is a link there that you will copy and paste into a browser to finish the configuration of this product. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to click on that and we'll open the link. And we'll ignore the security warning because it doesn't have a certificate installed on it yet. And first thing, like any other software, we're going to look at the end user license agreement and we'll accept that. We will create a local administrator. We'll set it with whatever password you want. Again, in a production environment, you would have to make this a much more secure password, but we'll just put a pretty generic one in. We're not going to save it. Here's the question. It's going to prompt to install the application database. And because we already have the PostgreSQL server installed on this server, we're just going to keep the defaults and click next, and it will go ahead and create that application database. And after it's created the database, the next thing is it's going to ask for a license file. We are just going to use the Community Edition. For those of you who are looking to back up a fairly small Salesforce environment, you can see here that it limits to an organization with 50 Salesforce licenses or less. So if you're a not-for-profit organization, or if you're a smaller company and you just want something to back up your Salesforce, this might be a good free option to be able to do that. We're just going to click next here. And on this next step, this is where it's going to prompt us to actually go over to our Salesforce organization and configure a connected app in order for this backup to be able to access the data and back it up. Okay, so on this next page, you can see that it's prompting us to create a Salesforce connected app in order to allow this Veeam backup for Salesforce to actually access the data and back it up. So you can see here, you can read the KB on Salesforce on how to create this app. I've already launched it here. You can read through this. It's straightforward instructions on how to actually go and install this app. So as you can see here, this is the section in the App Manager on how to create the connected app. So we will go ahead and we'll name this Veeam Backup Salesforce. And it will create the API name. We can put in the contact email. And these ones are not required, so we will just skip through those. And the next step here is important. We have to actually enable the OAuth settings. And under the OAuth scopes, there are two things that are necessary. We can actually go back here and take a look at this KB. And we'll see that down here, there are two things. It needs full access, and it needs to be able to perform requests at any time. So we will go back over and actually make those settings in here. The other required information that it needs is the callback URL. And we can just simply go back to our installation and we'll be able to see what that callback URL is. And it's pretty simple. It's for this, because it's based on IP, that's what it is right there. And we will just copy that and go over to Salesforce again and paste that in there. Okay, so once we have all the information, we're just going to click at the very bottom to save it, and we'll see that it'll give us this warning that changes can take up to 10 minutes to take effect, but we can continue at this point. So you can see that it's still going through the changes. It's still creating this connected app. But in the meantime, we can take a look at the OAuth settings. And what we want to look here is this consumer key and secret, where we can manage the consumer details. And it's going to ask that to verify our identity. So it sent a verification code to that email. So I'm going to go take a look at what it is, and I'll put that in there. Okay, so while we're waiting for the connected app to complete, we're just going to click next on here. And again, what we can do is we can get the community key and community secret from the connected app that we just created, and we'll just copy and paste them in here. And it's going to prompt us again to log in. So I'll just put in my credentials there. Veeam Backup Salesforce is asking for all of these permissions to this application. So in order for it to work, it's going to need all that. So we're just going to click allow. And there we go. Now it's connected to Salesforce. And at this point, we can create a backup policy schedule. We can take a look at the options here. It can be hourly, daily, or weekly. We're just going to set it to daily, and we're going to hit finish. And there we go. The application is ready to use. Hi, welcome back. As you can see here, we're taking a look at the Veeam Backup for Salesforce web interface. And you can see here that the first backup has actually completed successfully. It was created today and it was run. I mean, it's pretty quick. So we'll take a look at today we're just going to take a look through some of the configuration here. As you can see on this part here, once we're in configuration, we can look at the application itself, take a look at the configuration for the connection to Salesforce. You can see the organization, get a summary of what edition it is. You can create companies within here. You can also take a look here what database it's connected to in terms of its configuration. You can add a database if you want to migrate to a different a different server. And here again, if you ever need to change your connected app tokens, you can do that, and you would put the new tokens in here and make sure that your connected app is configured and connected. The next part here is users and roles. In another video, we will go through more in depth on how to configure the IDP provider and create some users in here. And so you can see here, we can enable Azure authentication. And again, we'll cover this in another video more in depth. The next part here is just alerts. And as you can see here, there's 3 that are enabled already: database connection, license error or warning, and a Salesforce connection error. You would go over here and actually turn on your alerts, and you would set your SMTP server, you would set the default sender, and if you need your SSL connection, you would configure that, and then you can send a test email. We don't have any of that configured right now, so we won't go through that configuration. You can also set up a Slack alert if you have, if your company uses Slack for notifications. And again, this is pretty simple. You would set up your service and put in your token, and then it would be able to send out alerts to your Slack community. And down here you see the license, and we're right now currently we're just using a community license. But if you were to purchase a license, you can actually purchase it through here. If you already purchased it and you have a license to install, you would just click install. Pretty straightforward. And again, down here about, you can see the version of it. You can download the logs if you ever need to contact Veeam for any support. And you can click here to check for updates. Okay, so now that we've installed and configured the Veeam Backup for Salesforce, we're going to go through and actually delete some data from the dev Salesforce environment, and we'll see if we can restore it. So we'll just go down to the next one. We'll delete Dickinson. All right, so we'll go over here. We'll click delete. It'll ask us if we really want to delete this opportunity. And oh no, we've deleted Dickinson Mobile Generators opportunity. So what are we going to do? We're going to go over to the Veeam for Backup for Salesforce. And as you can see here, I did a test one with Burlington. So we're going to do a new restore for Dickinson. All right, so we're going to click on restore. We'll call it Dickinson because that's what we want to restore. And we're going to restore deleted, merged, or corrupted records. Click Next. We're going to click select our organization, which is by default that one because we only have that one. So next on this page, we're going to select opportunities. So on this screen, we're just going to select opportunities and we will do a search. And we can see Dickinson here is a qualification. It's the one that we want to restore. So we're just going to click next to that. We're going to leave the other choices at default, but as you're going through this, you can read about whether this is something that you want to turn on or off. In this case, there's not going to be any attachments or hierarchy. We're just going to click the default there, and we'll click next, and we'll see if it actually does the restore. It's pretty quick. It's done the restore. So let's go back over to the opportunities on Salesforce. We'll refresh the screen. Hey, and we can see that the Dickinson opportunity has been restored and we're back in business. All right, so that's kind of a basic walkthrough of the installation, configuration, and we did a little walkthrough, and now we've actually deleted some data from Salesforce and restored it. So that's great, and if you're interested in more information, please let me know, and please stay tuned for more videos on Veeam and other cloud technologies. All right, stay tuned for more videos.